Good evening, good evening, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. How's everyone doing? We were just discussing here on the live just before starting to recording with 60, the crazy price action that gold has had recently. But I guess what we'll do today, if that's okay with everyone, both in the chat and hopefully in the recording too, is we're just going to go through a bit of a broader market overview to just have a bit of a understanding of where we're sitting in at a macro perspective, because it's really important, I think, now to start to correlate what not just Bitcoin is doing, of course, but what dollar, gold, and other assets are doing. Obviously, Trump in power, America pulling some really big guns and cards on the table. So we need to have a bit of a macro perspective. I'm not a fundamental trader by any means. I'm definitely a more of a TA person, but we need to have a bit of an understanding where we sit. So, as usual, what we do, we'll start with our good old friend Dexy or DXY, which is the dollar, dirty dollar. So, at a weekly major level, obviously now we can see we are now approaching weekly lows, and looks like we are going to melt. We still have 2 days before the end of the week. Mind you, this is a short week in many countries. Obviously, we've got Friday, Good Friday happening, Easter and whatnot. So it's going to be really interesting to see where we close with this weekly candle. Do we close below the previous low, which was the body at 99.48 or thereabouts, or do we do some sort of reversal from here? Definitely a point now where I think most traders can agree we are going to head lower. This is the direction that the Trump administration, but really the party, wants the dollar to go. So we have a dollar that is likely going to trade into the low 90s, if not the high 80s, and that's fine. There's no issues with that, because that gives other assets, case in point gold, room to run. So with the dollar effectively now just testing really big levels, we can kind of have an understanding and potentially even expecting a little bit of a reaction, but by no means this chart is bullish. This taking out the highs, I guess, that we saw here was definitely a bit of a trap, and now we're likely going to go and make some lower highs and lower lows. So let's take a look at what dollar is doing, some of the assets that we were just talking about. This is a crazy chart. So you can see gold has been consolidating for, what is that, 2020 until 2022, for 2 years in this relatively small range. And then obviously comes October 2023. We've had a non-stop, this is on a weekly chart, mind you, non-stop run. So we are now at our all-time high after all-time high after all-time high. This is the highest it's ever been. And when we trade in these kind of ranges, which is new ranges, we call them price discovery, there's really nothing to go by. We have no structure to go by. We have the chart can just go straight up for another, who knows, $1,000, $2,000 for what we know. So trying to short, which is obviously something that we try as traders, we try to catch, or some traders do anyway, reversal trader. I'm a reversal trader, so sometimes you do try to catch a reversal. But really, gold has been a really good example this week, and really the last few weeks of don't do that. Just wait. And if anything, we'll look for longs, because obviously the trend is so strong at the moment that even this temporary break of structure, I just broke it down into the 1 hour just to give you a bit of a lower time frame idea. You can see we've got this big line of liquidity. We grabbed it and then we just ran. So this is really not a lot to trade off. Imbalances are not being respected. There's a ton of imbalances left behind. So it's really just a bit of a waiting game until we see some sort of higher time frame, and by higher time frame I mean weekly, 3 days, and even daily, solid breaker structure. I'm not really gonna touch gold. 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes charts, sure, they're fun to trade, but they can be quite nasty and reverse quite quickly if you're not quick enough. And also, depending on who you trade with, you might have a slightly larger spread. So this this could have been a trade here. You can see drop of liquidity, but if your spread was this size, then all of a sudden your 1 to 2 could have been a 1 to 1, which is not worth taking. So look, too long didn't read. Gold is just been an absolute nightmare to trade with, and like gold, S&P 500 is actually behaved a little bit of a naughty in a naughty way, but it is easier in my eyes to trade with, in the sense that we obviously made a huge trend here, which we can see with S&P 500 has been going on since October 2022, which was the last local low. So we've made obviously a structural low here, and then we kind of continue. You can argue that this was a low potentially, but really for me this is just a one trend. But now we've broken it. We've broken this major trend line or liquidity, and we are testing some serious levels. So what do I look for S&P 500, which is obviously a really good indicator of where the macroeconomic is? Well, if we scale up in time and we go on a weekly, we can see quite clearly that was the low that we were talking about, and we take a fib. I can see S&P 500 definitely coming back into the 5618 zone, definitely into this candle potentially. And mind you, for S&P 500 to come back into the 4,000, that means that people in the US, which have obviously their 401k, the retirement funds, and this is a major crush. This is considered a major crush. Okay. Can it potentially get into the 786, 886? It could. This is full-blown recession though. So if we are going to wait for the 50 to 61.8, come back into this level, which I think we will see, I would think this is a more likely scenario than potentially the 786 and 886. If we see S&P 500 coming down to these levels, we are talking, probably global recession and whatnot, which I don't discount personally. I think I'm starting to get into the view of we could potentially have a shorter bear market and a shorter bull market and roll them into two bull market and two bear market into one. I can delve into that a little bit later, but I'm definitely seeing a bearish price action. Obviously you can see this was the previous high, broke structure on the weekly, and now we're going to make some lower lows. I'll be looking at potentially really longing from that 4,100 roughly, and this is obviously going to be a major swing. S&P 500, because it's obviously quite a I guess expensive pair to trade. You can break it down into 5 minutes, and you can see the 5 minutes becomes on the minutes or even on the hourly. You can take these trades if you have a bias. So I'd rather at the moment trade S&P 500 than, say, for example, gold. So this coming week I'll be looking for trades more into S&P 500 and steering away from gold, silver, and even oil, which at the moment are not being our friend as traders. So just giving you a bit of a heads up as to what I'll be looking for in the next week or so. And then let's have a look at our crypto pairs. And in the meantime, I just want to know if anyone in the chat has any questions. Feel free to put them in the chat. And if you are watching this stream from YouTube, make sure you leave a comment down below. But let's have a look at where Bitcoin is. So first of all, before we even look at the price action, we want to see the most important indicator. Where is Bitcoin dominance at? This is a breakdown that I did a little while back, so we can move it up here. It's a good breakdown of, basically you can screenshot it, read it later, but it tells you what this candle is and what it does. This is on a monthly time frame, so we're looking at a really high time frame at the moment. But what's important to notice is that we are actually trading into, sorry, didn't grab that tool. We are actually trading into that monthly candle, which is a huge buy to sell move. These kind of moves, obviously institutional moves or really footprint in the market, tell us that we are going to trade back into here, and we did wick here, and I think everyone on crypto Twitter, it was now 2 months ago, was hoping, including myself, was hoping that was it. That was retest, and now we were ready to drop down, but that's clearly not the case. So Bitcoin dominance continues to go up. You can see last month, and you can see this month with another 14 days. So I'm expecting the dominance to probably trade into the 70%, which means that for every dollar in crypto, 70%, or currently 63%, almost 64%, are in Bitcoin. The bad news is that until this chart drops and the Bitcoin dominance drops, we will not see an alt rally. We will not see ETH rallying. We will not see Solana rallying. So there's a price suppression, because effectively what's Bitcoin doing here is sucking up all the liquidity in the market. The good news is that this chart is close to dropping, hopefully. There's a bad news and a good news. I don't personally foresee going much higher than potentially a 75% and taking out these highs as an absolute extreme. I think there's a lot in the market happening currently, and we're very close in the next month or two. And I know that I've shared this timeline before, but I am expecting altcoins to potentially rally around June, July. So it's only a few months away, a couple of months away or thereabouts. This is a chart that we really have to pay attention to right now. So the Bitcoin dominance, I'm not really paying attention to the price per se. The dominance is what really has my full attention. So really important to see. There's no point in going lower time frame. You can't really go any lower than daily anyway. So I mean, you can, but there's no really point, because this is not a price. This is a dominance chart. So really, I look at it from the weekly and the monthly and whatnot. Yeah, this is where we're at. Let me just quickly read the chart. So over the next 1 to 2 months is your best bet to this year into winners, definitely. And then I've been doing that already. We have been doing this already. Any drop, any 25-30% drop into your favorite altcoins, and I'm not talking meme coins personally. I know that there's a lot of successful meme coin traders in our group. I'm not one of them. That's not my thing, but definitely, for me, Chainlink at these prices is undervalued, and Casper was undervalued a couple of weeks ago, and those are all projects that are part of my portfolio, and every time they drop, I just accumulate more, because ultimately what's going to happen when this chart does drop and does reverse and comes back down, all those alts are gonna explode. So that's what we're waiting for. It's just been a bit of a painful cycle, I guess, but this is just how this market has developed now, with Bitcoin really establishing itself as the absolute leader in the market. We will see a drop. It's just a matter of when. And speaking of dominance, I was having a chat earlier today, and I thought I'd explain to the broader group what is ETH, BTC, and why it's important. So any chart or any pair, you can trade it. Obviously, when we can see BTC USDT, that's the pair. It's Bitcoin against the US dollar. ETH USD, it's Ethereum against the USD dollar. But back in the days, you could only trade against Bitcoin. So all you could do was buy Bitcoin and then swap it for something else. And you can still do that, and what this allows you to do, it allows you to trade your Bitcoin for another asset. And whilst this can be a little bit dangerous, it can also allow you to have some pretty significant gains on your Bitcoin, right? Because the ultimate gain here, the ultimate goal is to get Bitcoin. And a chart that I think it's really important, not just to trying to get more Bitcoins, but also as an indicator of where we are in the altcoin potential rally, is Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So obviously Ethereum, the number one, arguably so you can say, but the number one altcoin, and Bitcoin. So what happens is we are now at major lows. You can see this. So this is on a weekly basis. We can see that we are forming a major harmonic currently. I do think that there's a chance we go a little bit lower, so I'm not going to call this out yet personally, nor to take the trade for myself. I've got a very strong feeling we will come back and sweep these lows, so there's an extra, I think, 20% or 30% drop from here potentially. But this chart is absolutely primed to go up. It's just a matter of when, and it's going to be really, really close. So what happens when this Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart get to those lows, or potentially goes a little bit lower? Well, If you have any spare Bitcoin that you don't want to hodl and you're happy to trade with, which for me it's about 10-15% of my portfolio, Bitcoin portfolio that is, I can potentially swap them for Ethereum, because this is Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And if I swap them at the low, what happens is, say for example, and I'm just going to use this as a nominal amount just so it's easier to get your head around. If I swap 1 BTC for, just say, 20 Ethereum, the math is not mathing, so but just bear with me. I just did an example, right? So it doesn't have to math. So if I swap 1 BTC for 20 Ethereum down here, and this chart does a 200x, which is about 50% or 61.8 of that move, which is totally doable. This is on a weekly, mind you. All of a sudden, when I am up here, right, when I get to this level, my 20 Ethereum is not worth 1 Bitcoin anymore. It's worth, tell me in the chat, 200% move of 1 BTC is what? How many BTC do I have now? Get me some engagement in the chat. Come on, how many BTC do I get? If I had 1 BTC down here, and I get it, that's right, 3, right? Because that's how it works. 200% is 3x. So my same investment of 1 Bitcoin is now worth 3 Bitcoins. And mind you, this is not a price chart. So I'm not trading against the US dollar. This is just a dominance chart. So in the whole entirety of this move, the price of BTC could have potentially moved $10,000, 20, definitely not 3 times. And similarly, ETH would have moved a fair bit, but not 3 times. So this is just one asset against each other. And this is a really powerful strategy to have in your arsenal when you're looking at accumulating more of one asset. And for me specifically, that asset is Bitcoin and Ethereum. Obviously, this is not the chart to do it, because in this chart, we want to try to accumulate more Bitcoin. But this is a good play that is going to eventuate very soon, I feel. So keep it on the radar. I thought I'd share with you. And again, the math doesn't have to math. These are just nominal amounts, just to give you an understanding of how this dominance chart work. Hope it's clear for everyone. I know that dominance charts are not necessarily talked about a lot, and everyone on crypto Twitter likes to talk about USD, but dominance chart is a really good way to multiply your portfolio even on accumulation phases. But speaking of prices, let's have a bit of a look at macro, right? We talked about obviously macroeconomic on dollar, assets, dominance, and now we're going to have a bit of a look at where we stand at a macro level on Bitcoin. So you probably saw, if you jumped in earlier, I was looking at a chart comparison between the hash rate of Bitcoin and Bitcoin pricing. So the hash rate is basically nothing else but telling us, you can see, it's basically just giving us the strength and the network security. So the higher the hash rate, you can call it, the more secure the network is. And this doesn't have to be just on Bitcoin. It can be on many other different chains, right? It's just basically how many miners are participating into mining that specific asset. And obviously, the more miners participate, the more a network becomes secure, because there's more validators. But also, it gives us a bit of an idea of a sentiment, right? So Bitcoin, historically, and not just Bitcoin, but any proof of work, is tightly related to the sentiment of miners, right? Miners are the ones that are carrying the heavy load by securing the asset and the chain. What happens when miners decide to, per se, unplug or take off the plug of the wall? Well, we see a drop in hash rate. You can see there was a drop right here. There was a drop right here. What happens when that hash rate drops? Obviously, the network is less secure, even though temporarily. But really, what he's telling us is that potentially there's underlying issues, such as mining that specific asset, which in this case we're looking at Bitcoin, but it could be Casper, becomes temporarily unprofitable. And you have to understand that now there's big corporations doing this mining, right? Things like Mara and whatnot in stocks. We can look at that later. But it's important for us to understand what the miners are doing. So you can see big drop here. The reason why I was looking at this chart, I wanted to see after this specific drop that we had back in February, late February, early March, what was the price reaction doing? And yes, we did have a bit of a rebound, but now I want to see if this hash rate, which is I'm looking at it weekly here, is going to drop down lower. And if it is, it's kind of not the greatest news in the short term, but long term, we can see that there's a big correlation between a drop in hash rate and slightly later, by a couple of weeks or thereabouts, there's a big pump in price. And that's just because obviously we have basically reached an absolute bottom in terms of prices, and price needs to bounce back. It happens every single time. So obviously you can see big drop in hash rate there, big pump. Big drop in hash rate there, big pump. This one as well, drop in hash rate and then pump. Now we had a relatively decent drop in hash rate just recently. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen there. So this is by no means a prediction tool. It's simply a sentiment finger on the pulse. So giving you a bit of a macro there in terms of what Bitcoin, what to look for in Bitcoin. But from a TA perspective, we obviously at very important levels on a weekly. You can see we are currently sitting right in between. We currently touch right in between the 50% and the 618, and we rebounced beautiful last week. So now on a daily, what we want to see is for the next few days, we want to see these highs taken out. Once I see this high taken out and this specific structure right here, so 87,500, strong closes above and closes above the previous low, which was 76,440, can tell us that that was potentially the low and we are ready to move higher. But it's too soon to say so. We are literally in the middle of a move, which is why I haven't been calling any trades right now, because there is no point in trying to predict what the market does. We are sitting just above the 618, so pretty much in the middle of a range. Until we can see some structure being formed with really strong higher highs being made, such as, let me find my draw tools, something like this. Let's do it, come on. Something like this, then we can look at doing longs and taking a long, or vice versa. I need to see some lower lows being made, so there is a rejection from this area, a retest, and then this could be the short opportunity that we're looking for. But all this is speculation at the moment. There is no point in predicting. We're not here to predict, we're here to react to what the market gives us. So we're gonna sit and wait. The thing that I think it's really important to notice is that there's a big decoupling now, price action wise, from the dollar and Bitcoin. This obviously never used to be the case. When Bitcoin was a younger asset, there was a big correlation. When the dollar was going up, Bitcoin was going down, and vice versa. Whereas now the two are kind of really just price action is independent, which is a good sign for Bitcoin, meaning that it's a more mature asset. But you can see it's not even following gold anymore. So we've lost that edge. If anyone was trying to trade Bitcoin the same way they were trading gold, they're probably getting wrecked right now, because you can see gold is just going absolutely berserk, whereas Bitcoin is currently chilling. So we need to trade Bitcoin as an entire new asset and as an entire new category, and we've got to stop doing comparisons. So for now, we're just going to wait. Let's have a look at ETH. Obviously, ETH is probably the underperformer of the cycle, I think, so far. But the good news is that I think it's underperforming because it has been suppressed. At a weekly the price has been suppressed. That's what I'm trying to say. At a weekly standpoint, we are obviously sitting at major lows. That was a very bad straight line. Sitting at major lows. It's make it or break it for ETH, I feel. Currently sitting at this level. So unless we can really try to keep this structure and start reversing from these major weekly levels, this is the kind of price action that I like to see. But if we start closing below, then it gets a little bit ugly, because we can probably go below 1000s and even test. In the worst case scenario for me, even the low, well, that was very low. I was looking at 700, which is about here. But too soon to tell. No point in trying to predict what the market is doing. For now, all I know about ETH is that I'll be looking for reversals coming potentially very soon. This is obviously on a weekly. If we go back onto the daily, similar situation as what we just discussed with Bitcoin. All we need to do is see some strong price action and closes above the last highs, or lower highs, I should say, that we've printed. Once we start to see closes above, then we have a price action to go by and a confirmation that a breaker structure has indeed occurred. But for now, we have nothing. You can see the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 candles. They've just been in this pretty much ugly range. So, and this can go on for a couple of weeks, right? So before another drop, or potentially a reversal. So we're just gonna have to sit tight, and that's why I asked the question the other day into the channel. I said, what do you guys want to see on terms of calls? Do you want to see more risk on, or do you want to play conservative? Personally, I'm glad to say you guys chose what I was thinking, which is right now is the time to be conservative. There's no point in trying to bet your hard-earned money away when, you know, oh, this is a long, we're going to reverse, and the market, boom, drops down. No point in doing that by any means. But XRP, no different from the others. Probably the XRP, there is a point to be made in terms of obviously the latest pump that it has. It's been one of the best performing assets this cycle, even though it hasn't done anything for 2.5 years, and prior to that for many years as well. But now what we are seeing, we obviously at a weekly level, so a higher time frame. This is a slightly bearish, not slightly, this is a bearish price action. We've made low, high, low, low, low. So could we potentially go back and fill some of these imbalances? Yes, we can. Will institutional money come in to step and potentially give us another pump? They may. Personally, I have some targets in terms of taking profit for XRP. My targets are around the $5-6, but they are years away. And I'm not gonna take these targets for the next 5-6 months. These are something that I expect to see, you know, by 2030. People calling some silly prices on XRP on the timeline. I think that's unreasonable. I think in the shorter term, in the next 12 months, we will see potentially XRP going back down to $1. It has done similar moves in the past, where massive explosion follow big consolidation and dormant periods. The good news is that we might not see another 2 to 3 years of nothing, because now we have obviously XRP being widely adopted at a government level. So we might see a shorter consolidation period, but I do think that we'll potentially see sub $1 again. So if your entry is somewhere down below, which we were taking entries down below here in GTG, would definitely take some profit. You should have taken profit already up here. I personally did, and I'm going to take some more. I think I've said it last time. I'm 50% out of my personal XRP position. Once we go back up here, if we retest it into this candle right here, I will take another 25% off, and I'll be sitting at 75 out of XRP, and the rest I'll just ride and keep it as a bag, because the entries look pretty good. That's why entries are important. So for XRP, I'm expecting some sort of potential retracement and filling. Thank you so much, Sexy, for tuning in, brother. Awesome. And we're going to finish off with Sol. Obviously, we're talking about a macro perspective, so there is absolutely no macro now without Sol. Sol has been, again, similar to XRP, major expansion. We've gone from obviously the $8 to 22 to 300 and almost 300 something. And now we're sitting similar to XRP at interesting levels. At a weekly perspective, and this is just a TA, so I'm not a fundamental analyst. That's not what I trade. I don't trade fundamentals. I trade TA. You can see that at a weekly level, we have broken structure. We have made lower lows. Now, what we need to see is, was this latest, so not last week, but the week before, that closed below these lows, was this an inducement? Was this some sort of manipulation that is now ready to slingshot up higher? Or do we see a sweep of lower price action? If we just put together the puzzle that we've just been forming by looking at BTC, ETH, XRP, I am leaning towards Sol, potentially leaning back and heading back somewhere in the next few months, sub 100, and potentially as low as, say, the $80, $78 or thereabouts. Does that mean that this is the end for Sol? Absolutely not. I do think we'll see $500, $400 for Sol in the near future. It's just a matter of having to be beforehand, before slingshot higher. We need to clear those lows and we need to retest and close some of those orders. So this is kind of like at a macro level what I'm looking at. I know that some traders in our group are very good at obviously analyzing 5, 10, 15 minutes trades. That's not what I do. I look at more of a macro plan, and this allows me personally to come up with a plan and obviously save for those occasions for when we come down and build a portfolio. So the style I trade, different, I guess, from some of the traders, is I'm more of a portfolio builder as opposed to just a simple trader per se. I do trade every day, but obviously my main goal is to build a profitable portfolio. So I thought it was a really important discussion that we needed to have in terms of what I see in the market currently. The dollar is really kind of giving us a good indication of where the macroeconomy is currently heading towards. So we'll see a drop of this dollar for sure. We'll see gold likely rallying to. I wouldn't be surprised if gold goes to $3,000-$4,000 in the next few months. Sorry, it's already at 3.3. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes into $4,000 in the next few months. So if you were to shadow this kind of move, so shadow tool is here, so something like this, and you just let it go basically from here, $4,000, it's totally doable by end of May if it continues this trend. So we'll see. There's no point in trying to predict. We just react. That's kind of what I'll be looking for. But for sure, I'll be looking at more S&P 500 and those trades. Fairly sure you can trade S&P 500 in G-Trade as well, so totally decentralized if you don't have a broker in the country that you live in. Cool. That was a lot of rambling. I'm going to have a glass of water, and that gives you about 5 seconds to type a question in the chat if you have it. Did I lose anyone in terms of any stocks? Yes, definitely. You did ask, Kurt, and I do have some stocks ready for you. Sorry, I didn't put them on there, but I prepared them here. Stocks that I've been looking for. So currently I am in Celsius. I did call in GTG Celsius, obviously the beverage. We caught the 786 and the 886, but I'll be looking for a retest of Celsius. Again, we're on a weekly chart here. So Celsius around $32 is, I think it's a good entry. We've reacted beautifully from the 886, so we're definitely in profit there. And now I'll be looking out for a rebound. If it doesn't give it to us, that's fine. But there is other opportunity currently still from Coinbase. We've seen Coinbase obviously take major liquidity here, and now forming new liquidity, grabbing that, and now sitting in between these major two channels, which are the shift pitchfork channels that we'll be looking at for months now. If we start breaking below 146, closing below 146 at a weekly level, I'll be worried that we potentially go back into these levels. But for now, my entry was somewhere here. I think we called it in GTG. After seeing that sweep of liquidity, I'm happy to DCA down. So Coinbase is an easy bid because I think most of the people that are listening to this stream, either live or on the recording, do believe in the future of crypto. And this is basically just a very simple bet. If you believe in crypto, you know that Coinbase stock is going to go up higher. Like my target for Coinbase is easily into the 1,000. So this is a long-term stock hold for me. So another one that we called recently was WBA. I did take an option. My expiry is on May. Around the 20th of May, and this option I did it with a strike price of $10, so it's moving in the right direction. WBA obviously had their earnings just recently. They come out positive. I do think we will easily fill this gap right here, which you can see. That's my target, and I do think that will be a fairly quick. Oh, that was the wrong tool. Fairly quick move. So that's my target right here. That was my position. I'm in an option currently for these guys, and yeah, that's definitely one of them. Of course. So for those of you that are looking at the recording, you can see the chat. Kurt just explained. Can you explain options briefly? So you have two ways of investing in stocks, right? So two ways of investing in stock. You can, one, buy and hold, right? That's just a simple way. You just buy the stock when at a certain price, and then you sell the stock when it reaches the price. Or you can trade the stock. And trading the stock is done with options. What is an option? So an option is basically you are entering a position when, and you decide the price. You can take option at different prices, right? But say I took an option here and I did it out of the money. So what happens is you decide your duration, and I'll probably easier if I show you with option. There's a really good website here, and that's called optionstrat.com. This gives you an idea of where the position is. So currently we're looking at WBA, so the ticker WBA. So we simply go option strat. We build a position. We're gonna build a long position. You can say here long call. We select the stock, and then what we do is we want the graph, and you can just simply just toggle the range all the way. And the other thing that we need to look for in order to build a position in stock is what price you want to enter in now. Obviously, the price now is a little bit different from when I enter. So I'll probably say now if I was to build a position, I'll be looking at $10 as an entry point, and you can toggle this up and down. But you can see the price here changes based on where you decide to take the position. So the lower you take it, the more expensive it gets. The higher you take it, in this case, because we're obviously trying to build a long position, the cheaper it gets. But say I want to take it at $10, because that's the nearest there. And then the other thing that you need to build is, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, is for how long you want the position or the long to go for. So in this case, I've decided it was a relatively short option for me, May 2025, so what is that, a month and a bit. So what you do, you select from here, you can see you have all these dates, May 2023, and then I have a $10 strike price. This is how much I pay for a WBA option if I was to buy today, What happens is you then have obviously an idea of where you want your price to be. In this case, I want it to be between $13 and $15. How much would this option pay me if the price gets there? So this is where the curve tells you, is it profitable? Is it worth doing for me? Well, if I'm risking $123, right? This is all about risk to reward ratios. And by May 23, I hit $15, then I've got a 1 to 3 in my hands. And as you guys know, I take 1 to 3s. So definitely worth for me doing. So I could be paying $123 and I could be making $375. This is at today's prices. So this is how options work. You need to go into your broker's account. Easy. You need to go into your broker's account, obviously, and each broker is slightly different on their graphic interface. This is a website that is available to anyone. You can literally just do any ticker. So the other option that I took, for example, was Snapchat. So I did take a Snapchat position. So same thing. I go into here. I go into Snapchat. And I took an option, in this case, a lot longer, because I do think this is a much longer hold for me. So why did I take Snapchat? Well, you can see this chart on a weekly basis. We are at absolute extreme levels. We've gone back into COVID levels. We've bounced back from there many times. It's just a matter of fact, just a matter of time before we take out these highs, in my opinion, and we go back and trade into these highs. So Snapchat for me was a relatively easy option to take in terms of long term. So I've set it into January 2027. So that's my expiry for that. And my strike price was $7. So if we go back into here, we take obviously same thing. So it was, in this case, was $7. So we are at a slightly different price now because we already moved. But what happens if I go into my take profit of $37 and I set it to January 2027? Well, $27 is out of the charts at the moment. So if I do, excuse me, if I do a $312 option, that's how much it cost me, and I go into my $30, you can see that $312 option could pay almost 7 times. So do you have the patience, though, as an investor, to hold this option for 2 years potentially? So that's a real question. You can do 2026 as an example, and you can see obviously the price changes. The longer out you go, the more expensive the option becomes. So that's how it goes. The longer out, if I do it for May, you can see it's $147 for May this year, but January 2027 is $312. What happens though, and this is the really important thing to really discuss about option, is if by the time your option is about to expire, you don't close it, or the price is lower than your entry point, then you lose that money. Think of it like a liquidation. So what's happening is you're effectively bidding 2 things. You're bidding that the price goes up if you're doing what's called a long call, and you're trying to bid against the time. So you're basically saying, I am stating here and taking a position that the price is going to go up, and by XYZ time, we will reach a certain amount. You can close the option at any time, mind you, Kurt. So you can close the option up here, anytime. But the important thing is that if you're going to keep it open this whole time, or the asset trades lower and it's lower by the time it hits your option expire, then you've lost your initial investment, which in this case is $312. So that's what options are. A little bit tricky because you're effectively trading 2 variables and not just one. So you're trading the price and then you're trading the time, right? So you're trading against 2 different variables, price and time. Yep, similar to leverage in a way. Yep. Hope that clears it. And then the last stock that I wanted to, I guess the last couple of stock that I've been looking for, we've entered a position in XYZ, which is obviously Block, the company owned by Jack Dorsey. We're already in profit in this position. That was the entry right there. I do see this a lovely consolidation happening currently, but I do see this beautiful volume starting to build up as well. So for me, this is a pretty easy beat at current levels. They have earnings coming up end of April. There is no reason why we're not going to go and pick up this liquidity that has been forming up here at some stage, and even if we do temporarily go lower, the downside in this specific stock and in Jack Dorsey's company is very much lower than the upside, and it's really nice and pleasing to see Jack Dorsey now making obviously big waves in on the timeline, trying to I guess ban, or not ban, but abolish IP rights, which is obviously very much in tune with what Elon Musk is saying. So look, long story short, I do believe this is a really solid position to hold long term, and I'm actually going to probably solidify my position even harder. I'll be going a little bit harder on block personally on this. So these are the ones that I'll be looking for. So Snapchat, XYZ, WBD, WVA, Coin, and Celsius, which is currently there. And Nike, we took a position just recently. Nike, there is a really important point to be made here in Nike. You can see on the weekly, we have traded past the COVID candle. We are now trading at hugely extreme levels, but most importantly, you can see this massive volume starting to really come in. This specific volume, and you can see I've turned off candles color. It's not really relevant to me, but when I see this kind of volume spiking up, and that means that there's a lot of buyers or sellers, but really what he's saying is there's a lot of people trading this asset at current prices. So we might see a temporary low, but at these extreme levels, I'm confident that this position is going to pay off in the long term. So Nike at 54, or even if low 50s or high 40s, it's going to be a really nice long term hold when we go back into 120s, 150s, and so forth. So this is what I'm currently active in personally. And then in terms of what I've been eyeing coffee. These are cash contracts, so it's a little bit different. PayPal, I think I've called it already. So sitting at juicy levels. Google, and all these, I think there's a point that needed to be made, which I haven't done yet, and then I probably will call it for tonight. But what it is we've seen S&P 500 making some lower lows. This is on a weekly chart, right? So we've seen S&P 500 making this structure breaking, boom, right here. But in this stock that we just covered, you can see they're all held. So that tells me that this stock are a much better potentially performer than just a simple S&P 500 currently. So obviously Coin, same thing, it held the low there. WBD, you can see we didn't break below, so we didn't make a lower low. We didn't make a lower low. We bounced right back. XYZ or block, similarly, we did temporarily break structure, but we are still well above the previous weekly low. So this is the kind of structure that you want to look for, the structure that are holding themselves. Nike being the exception here, that absolutely obliterated previous structure, but at a macro perspective, that's where I'm looking at Nike for being a longer term, because you can see on the monthly we are still here. So bit of an insight as to what I look for in stocks, aside from obviously volume and structure, but also in terms of comparison with the S&P 500 and whatnot. So yeah, hope that answered your question, Kurt. Went around in circle a bit there. Any other question? Oh, easy. Let's see. Let's see. Etsy's been another one that I'm really looking to call soon for us. I keep saying put it on your radar. This is the monthly candle. We're gonna trade into Etsy. It's here now. I was away from screen when you answered this, but do you have an eye on any ASX? So yes, Australian Stock Exchange. I do. I'm looking at mineral resources currently for ASX. So we've seen a major spike in volume just recently. A couple of months ago, we are trading at extreme level 786, 886. This is obviously mineral base. You can see I've got it here. Still looking for the second double top in June, July. Yes, we are. Yes. But yeah, ASX, that's what I've got on my radar currently. Maxo, in terms of what I'm looking at. And yeah, that was it, I think, for Aussie ones. I am looking at a couple of others. You can see I've got Pernod Ricard, which is a liquor, obviously champagne and whatnot, but we're still a little bit far away. I'll be interested again once we head back into these kind of levels up here. A little bit far away in the 60s. We're at 92 now. Obviously chips, Coke, we nailed it. We called Coke a couple of weeks back, and the DCA zone was perfect. And now obviously we've retested it, we're back up. But yeah, we nailed that. Tesla, we nailed the levels once again, so we bang on between the two levels. And I think Nvidia missed our heavy DCA level by $2, $3. So your price is talking about sub 100, XRP under 100 is post that blow off. Yes. So anything I talk about is months, like weeks to months, right? Like I'm not a scalper. I'm a swing trader. So I'm talking macro. I formulate plans based on timelines, and we can look at time fibs as well. Maybe we'll definitely look at time fibs another time. But yeah, there's no doubt that those kind of prices, sub 100 for Sol and XRP under $1 is definitely something that it's not going to happen tomorrow. Like I'm not calling by any means a crash or anything like that tomorrow. So I share this chart, this post in the chat currently. So this is the situation that I'm foreseeing currently for BTC. We are in between two major zones of selling and buying pressure. That's why I'm not taking any position, because it could go either way. We could go lower before we go higher, or we could go higher before we go lower. But I do think we are gonna bounce back here for a bit, and then eventually we'll make a move. You can see I've got here June 2025 with this big red line, and if you actually see what I've written there is a 2.618 Fibonacci time base from the high to the low of this, and I'll leave you with this little nugget. Time fib between the high to the low takes us right there, 2618. You can see that. Probably didn't take it to the T, but that's what time fib do. 3618 will bounce us back into January, and so forth and so on. So time fibs are pretty handy as well. But that's a lesson in itself. But yeah, for now we'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, I'd rather play conservative. I do have a potential setup there if we do eventuate and trade into this 4-hour candle. But really, to be perfectly honest, my favorite area to trade would be here, and my entry 2 would be below this two equal lows. So I would rather take an entry one from this candle, so 77,666, and take a second trade from the 74,350 and change. Not now. There's no point calling now because we're not near. But you can see here, let's screenshot it. That's kind of a trade that I rather that I'm looking at currently potentially. So this will be it. Somewhere like this. Cool. Well, if there's no other questions, silver, yes. I was wondering if anyone was going to ask me about silver. Let's have a quick look, because silver is been an interesting one. So, silver has not been behaving like gold. You can see we haven't been making higher highs, and we're currently trading into a consolidation phase. I do think, to answer the TLDR for you, Daza, is silver is underpriced at these levels. Do I recommend going balls in silver at the moment? No. I do think that gold is potentially in a bit of a bubble. I do think that dollar is going to retrace, not retrace, but correct. But it's just a matter of time before silver takes out these equal highs. Sorry. So, is this the time to buy? No, the time to buy would have been, at $28, not at 32. But how high can this go? If you want to build a position in silver, sure, then what is your time horizon? What are you looking at? Are you looking at 1 year, 10 years, 5 years? With time, silver will eventually outperform, I think, gold with time. The time is not now, and the time to buy silver, as you can see by this weekly chart, was into the consolidation phase down here, which, fun enough, would have been a nice fib level from the low to the high. And would you look at that, 50 to 618, the 618, perfect, done, reverse, and had you bought it 18, now you'll be up almost 2x. But hey, what do you know, huh? Fibs do work. We're not gonna do anything right now in silver. I'm not gonna take any trades. There's no point in trying to do anything. The market is too unpredictable. I know that I was looking at a short potentially, and if I was to look at any other pair aside from potentially silver and gold right now, this would be a level that I would be inclined to potentially short. This is on a 1 hour, so this could be a very cheeky short, something like this, and potentially you could do to there. This could be a short right now in silver, but with gold making all-time high after all-time high after all-time high, it's just too gambly at the moment to take this kind of positions, I think. So I'm not going to take it, but I see the setup. If you're the type of trader that, and you should be, that takes trades when the system hits your confirmations, then yeah, this is something that I would take. But I'm also not in the need to trade this week. So yeah, I hope that answered the question. So silver is definitely underrated at the moment for sure. Easy peasy. All right, team. I hope I packed a little bit of value tonight. It was a bit of a market overview, but I hope you enjoyed. We've gone through some stocks and options, which was cool. Thanks, Daza, for the question. And if that is all, I'm gonna go to bed. Take an early night. This is a short week for us, obviously with Easter holidays, and yeah, look, whether you're obviously Catholic or not, I wish everyone a wonderful festivity and holidays, and we will be chatting in the chats. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys and girls soon for another session. Have a great night. Bye.